go to the Raiders because they had their preseason finale last night. Did not exactly end with the spark I think Fernando Mendoza was hoping for, but nonetheless, even against the 49ers reserves, Mendoza threw an interception. He was sacked twice. He completed just 7 of 14 passes for 57 yards. Here was the number 1 overall pick after the lackluster performance.
The NFL, they like it or not, there are monsters at the other side of the ball, and you need to get the ball out quick, and it teaches you that you need to play on time, and there's less margin for error. So I think it's a great experience having that heat and duress, because diamonds are built under pressure. They're built under fire and being forged like that. So when you're able to play under that duress, that's when you're able to elevate your game, and I think it's a good experience.
He needs another 3 preseason games. All those rookies do. And now that the season's starting, the practice reps get smaller, and that's just life. But us as coaches, we got to get them ready to play, keep developing them.
All right, and needs another 3 preseason games. Obviously, no one's going to get that kind of luxury, and so Fernando Mendoza now is going to go to the back burner because we've known for a while now Kirk Cousins is going to be the starter for the Las Vegas Raider. You have been saying for a long time that you think Fernando Mendoza should get in there and should get in there early for the Raiders. Do you still think that? When should we see him, given the way he struggled in the preseason?
As soon as humanly possible. Preseason is a liar. Now, what's funny is Fernando Mendoza did his little spin move last night like he did in the national championship game. He got a couple yards, but he wasn't bouncing off guys like he was in Miami Gardens, Florida a couple months ago. It is a different sport, and clocking the speed of the game is what preseason is all about. Preseason stat lines, notoriously liars. They don't tell you what you're trying to do. Clint Kubiak talked about that interception that we're seeing right here. He said it was a drop pass. In the NFL, that is a drop pass. He's testing his limits. And I was looking at the preseason performance of some of the top quarterbacks in football. Josh Allen, NFL.com, called his first preseason a D grade. Matthew Stafford, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, had a pick 6 in his first ever preseason game. This is what development is. I think you only get better at NFL football by playing NFL football. And I think that you're looking at this, he's trying to make NFL throws. He's trying to clock the speed of a linebacker. What does this safety look like? Where's the nickel going to be? There's so much that goes in with it. And the only way I think that he's going to learn how to play football is by being in there by October at the very latest, guys.
Well, for me, I feel like he predetermined that throw.
Okay.
This is the second consecutive game where he's thrown an interception. And the game is moving at 100 miles per hour. I was talking to Harry about my first experience in the NFL. Coming from Ohio State, being a top 10 pick, starting my first game, I didn't know what was going on out there. The motions, the shifts, the checks. I literally stopped on one play versus the Houston Texans and stood there while the play was going on. I was so confused. So think about a guy like Mendoza. Think about Mendoza. He has to understand the defensive line. He has to understand the coverages, the different disguises. He see the clock counting down. He has to know the protection. He has to know who's hot. He has to know if his receiver is on the line, if this guy is off, who's the motion. And then have you heard offensive play call?
Yeah.
He has to get all of that terminology and then give it to his players and then get the ball snapped in 25 seconds. So I don't think he's ready. I don't think under any circumstance should he touch the field before Game 7 or Game 8. Now, if Kirk Cousins is obviously struggling, if they're 2-5 or 3-4, then maybe you can insert him into the game. But I think that he'll have a great year learning behind Kirk Cousins and from Kubiak. I don't think under any circumstance should he touch the field early in this football season.
Yeah, he's definitely going to benefit having Kirk Cousins in that building, in that quarterback room, because this offensive system Kirk Cousins has been in basically his entire career. Now, the difference between the two quarterbacks when you watch them in preseason, well, Fernando Mendoza, you can tell there's a lot processing in his mind. He's not playing fast. He's not playing quick. There's a lot that he has to worry about as well, too. Look at the timing to when they get the football off. Kirk Cousins is drastically different than it is Fernando Mendoza. And he even said in that soundbite, the game is a little bit faster. I got to get the ball out of my hands quicker and that whole nine. So when it comes to processing information, this is why you do love preseason, because you give these young quarterbacks and these young players that opportunity to get accustomed to the speed. We also have to be honest with ourselves. It's not like that was the first team defense out there for the San Francisco 49ers now.
Yeah,
even though you had guys out there who played, very meaningful snaps, everything that you're experiencing right now in the preseason is going to be ramped up when it comes to the regular season and be that much more faster. Now, what I did love about Fernando Mendoza, he's one of the most positive people I think I've ever seen in my life. It was a time
Smiling all the way through that.
Shay, he got sacked last night, and the offensive lineman that gave up the sack, he went and gave a handshake to. But I like on the clock when it's 1 minute and 31 seconds before halftime. Hey, can you take us down and operate situational football and go down there and get us some points? Did a great job hitting his checkdowns. And I thought coming out of halftime, Clint Kubiak as a play caller did a phenomenal job of saying, you know what? Let's get this run game going a little bit. Let's take a little bit more pressure off of our young #1 overall pick in Fernando Mendoza. But from my viewpoint of what I'm looking at with Fernando right now, Kirk Cousins is the starter for the Las Vegas Raiders. And if I had to pinpoint a time frame, what I would like to see him, that's if Kirk Cousins is not playing at a very tip-top level now. I'm looking at the Jets game on the road. I think that's week 8. That's the benchmark, I would say, for Fernando Mendoza to be able to play.
Do we have, I was going to say, can we throw the schedule up here for the Raiders? Because this is a little easier to visualize now. So you're saying at the Jets, that is week 8. Okay. So that would come after they play the Patriots, Bills, and the Rams. And what a gauntlet there out of the gates between weeks 3 and week 7. Go ahead, Kevin.
There's a couple things about it. So Clint Kubiak said that from now on, Fernando Mendoza's reps are going to decrease. That's just the way it goes in the NFL. Kirk Cousins is going to get the lion's share of the first team reps. There's not enough reps to go around. That's a training camp problem. Training camp is over. But you guys both know this. This ain't 2010 anymore. This ain't 2009. You can't run 2 different teams and have the quarterbacks get the same amount of reps. There just aren't there aren't 2-a-days anymore. There aren't those opportunities. There aren't padded practices really outside of a handful of times during the season. It is a really, really hard environment to develop a rookie quarterback. The other thing I would say about some of the schemes that they're running here and kind of what we're talking about as far as getting him ready is there's ways to scheme up great stat lines for rookie quarterbacks in the preseason. You roll them out, you hit the tight end, you run screens, you do all that stuff. If they wanted Fernando Mendoza to go 9 of 10 in all of these games with a touchdown and no sacks, they could have done that. They didn't want to do that. They were trying to get him ready to play. And again, it goes back to what we're talking about getting him in the veteran mindset. And Kirk Cousins is going to help with that. But guess what? Kirk Cousins, Harry, is going to be there no matter what happens. He's not going to storm out of the facility if he's benched. If he's the backup in October, he's still going to help. And I talked to Rich Gannon one time, and I said, what's the difference between a young quarterback and a veteran quarterback? And Donte, this piggybacks off of your point. He said that all the complicated things that a young quarterback has to do, where you're talking about a play call that might be 11 words that we think only Oppenheimer can figure out. We're just like, what the heck is that, right? When you're giving all of that stuff as a veteran quarterback, it's second nature, and you're looking at the defensive personnel when you're doing it. You're able to multitask. The only way you can get that system going is if you're out there getting time on task. That's why I want to play young quarterbacks early.
But I also don't believe in setting your young quarterback up for failure. Because when I look at this wide receiver group for the Las Vegas Raiders, are they stellar enough for Fernando Mendoza to develop as a quarterback?
But they won't be in November.
Roster.
They won't be in November.
Well, but at least you have – I'm a fan of learning how to be a pro.
Sure.
And being a professional. And guess what? Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant and had to become the starting quarterback early on, right? He didn't get those extra reps. There's a thing called being a pro and understanding what you have to do in order to get ready to play on Sundays or whatever day you may have to play. That's a part of being in the National Football League and being a professional.
Let's not kid ourselves. Those weren't intricate defenses out there that he was facing.
No.
I can look on that film right now, not being a quarterback, and tell you exactly what that coverage was, which goes back to the college conversation. They're doing the college quarterbacks disjustice by giving them the signals, the keys to the test from the sideline. So when you get into an NFL offense with intricacies where you have to do all your own thinking and your own checking, they all fail, which is why you don't want to draw up the plays in the preseason. You want them to see the most basic coverages that they can see, know where the primary read is, the second, the third, and not to predetermine your routes and where you're going to throw the football. So that's why I don't believe that Fernando Mendoza is ready. Indiana ran that system last year, and it was one of the major reasons why they won the national championship.
Let's go to Baltimore, where we have a new head coach, obviously, in the Ravens. No more John Harbaugh there. So this season will present a fresh start for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Lamar under center, the Ravens have not reached the Super Bowl. They've only made the AFC Championship game one time, which resulted in a loss to the Chiefs. Needless to say, there's high expectations this season in what could be Baltimore's last shot with Lamar Jackson. Here's Dominique Foxworth with more on that.
Lamar has the decision next year. And it seems like he orchestrated it. I've said it on microphones a number of times, and no one seems to be interested that Lamar has a no trade and a no franchise tag clause and a plus $80 million cap hit. Like, I don't think it's a coincidence that Lamar had all that leverage or has all that leverage headed into this season, and then a lot of changes were made. So, like, that's the thing that I have my eye on, that Lamar is doing a very NBA, it feels like he's put himself in a very NBA-style situation where it's like, I can do what I want at the end of the season. So let's get it right.
A plus $80 million cap hit, okay? We're not talking about chump change here. So it's something to think about now in totality and what's going to happen with Baltimore this upcoming season. Could you potentially see Lamar Jackson leaving Baltimore, Donte?
Yes, but only under extreme circumstances. Lamar Jackson is the face and identity of this offense and this franchise. So if he's still playing at a MVP level while healthy, that cap hit can be negotiated in this next deal. So I don't really think about that. It's about, what does Lamar want to do? Does he want to stay? Is he fully a believer in this new coaching staff, the new offensive philosophy, and are they building it around him? Because you cannot just strictly ask him to drop back and throw the football. You need to modernize this offense. You need to go run first, Derrick Henry, but then you see what the Green Bay Packers, what the 49ers, what the LA Rams, what the Kansas City Chiefs, what they do. They do a lot of motion shifts. They make the game a lot easier for their quarterback, and then they use his legs as a luxury. So if everything goes well this year and they get to, for say, deep in the playoffs or the AFC Championship, I don't foresee Lamar Jackson leaving. But if they don't get into the playoffs, if he does take a lot of hits this year, if he does get injured again, I can see Lamar Jackson leaving and going to an offensive philosophy that fits his skill set and that's modernized around his skill set.
Just to clarify, not because of the cap hit, but more
not
so
because of the cap
how
hit.
the season shakes out now with the new head coach and with the changes. Okay.
Absolutely.
Harry or Kevin, go.
All right, so the answer is sure. I don't think it's likely, but sure. I mean, we talk about the cap hit, and obviously, as Donte just said, that can be reworked in about a day. By the way, they restructured his contract last year to create cap space, so there is obviously constant contact as far as the contract and all that stuff goes. I do think that, first of all, in Miami, where I spend a lot of time, they always say, oh, Lamar's going to come home. It sounds like the Wizards fans talking about Kevin Durant. Oh, he wants to come home and save his hometown. Buddy, he doesn't want to come home and save the Dolphins. Also, the Dolphins have Malik Willis, so that's not even going to work out. But in Miami, they all think he's going to come back at some point. That's probably not going to happen. I think there's a couple of things that lend itself here. Number one, I think people remember how contentious things got 3 years ago in 2023, when not only could they not come to an agreement between the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, but also every team in the NFL basically passed on giving Lamar Jackson an offer. We saw that. It was ugly. It was strange. I think a lot of teams probably regret not trying to aggressively get Lamar Jackson back then. If he became a free agent or it became available in some way, we would see a very different league as far as the reaction goes. I also think part of this, guys, is that Lamar Jackson is represented by himself and his family, right? And I think because of that, there's not an agent on the phone with insiders giving 5-minute incremental updates on how these contract negotiations are going, okay? There's a lot of leaks from a lot of agents in the NFL. If Lamar Jackson doesn't have that, then there seems to be maybe an illusion of no progress, because you're not hearing every 5 minutes, oh, they talked today, oh, they met in Miami yesterday, the agent, and blah, blah, blah. There's nothing coming out because he's self-represented, so there's just less news about this. And I think that lends itself to people filling in the gaps. And I think Lamar has played this exactly right. He's got all the leverage. He might end up having the most leverage we've ever seen from a quarterback if he plays his cards right over the next year. Every time someone gets close to true free agency, whether we thought that was going to be Dak Prescott a couple years ago, he ended up signing. Things have always worked out. But right now, Lamar Jackson holds all the cards in a way that a lot of quarterbacks never do.
So what do our league, what do they not like? They don't like for the player to have all that control. They don't like for the player to have all that leverage. Let me bring up some other things. Extension eligible after this season. Drake May, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels. We just seen Patrick Mahomes get a deal. Dak Prescott is making $60 million a year. Lamar Jackson is also betting on himself for 2026. You want to know another quarterback that did that for the Baltimore Ravens? Joe Flacco. And went out and won a Super Bowl. And now I can write my ticket and tell you what I want, and you can't tell me no. Lamar Jackson, and you brought up that contract negotiations the last time. It didn't go the way he wanted it to go. So I'm going to make you pay this time around when I'm holding all the cards. That's what I really think this is.
And I also think that when you think about how difficult it is to prepare for Lamar Jackson, you don't think every head coach and defensive coordinator around the league understands what he brings?
Yep.
Why is everybody trying to move over to a quarterback that can hurt you with your legs and your arm? Because you can call up any defense you want. It's not going to be the perfect defense because they can get outside the pocket. They can create big plays with their arms and their legs. So with Lamar Jackson, is he trying to gain leverage and understand his true value as a quarterback hitting free agency?
If he doesn't sign, he doesn't want to. Josh Allen gets a contract extension every 5 minutes in Buffalo.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
The reason Lamar Jackson could become available is because Lamar Jackson might want to become available. That's just the way he's been playing it the last couple of years. It's about leverage. You said it, Harry. Doesn't mean he wants to leave Baltimore. It means he wants leverage, and he's going to have it.